If you're just about to start mixing a vocal and you're staring at a flat frequency spectrum on your EQ and you just don't know where to start, here's 4 key EQ moves to whip that vocal into shape. So we're going to be looking at 4 key areas on the frequency spectrum when it comes to getting started mixing our vocals. Of course, every voice is different, so it's really important to treat these as a guide and learn to know what to listen out for with our ears. More about that throughout this tutorial. Let's dive into the DAW. Okay, so here we are with our Blackbird N105 channel strip from Kit Plugins. A really nice channel strip to demonstrate these 4 moves with, because as we move up through the plugin, we move from the low end all the way up to the high end, so you can see these moves really clearly. Okay, so we're going to start things out employing a high pass filter, which is going to remove some unnecessary low end rumble from our vocal recording. This is going to happen a lot when you're working in a home studio, be it like trucks and cars outside, be it neighbors outside your house or your flat, be it other people in the house, or just things like if you're standing on or you knock onto the mic stand, you're going to get some low end booms and stuff going on there, which you don't want or need, of course, on your vocal. So very, very simply, we're going to bring up our vocal. I'm just going to isolate it for starters. And you can bring in your high pass filter and bring it in until you feel it's getting a bit too destructive to the vocal, and then dial it back till you can't hear it actually engaging on the vocal, but you know it's doing some work getting rid of that low end rumble. Let's take a listen.
Runaway trains run off the rails, caught in a storm with no wind in their
So said as it's extreme where it starts sloping off for 270, you can hear it's getting destructive on that vocal.
Sitting on a fence to keep them on track. You must move on, let them keep looking back. Runaway trains run off the rails, caught in a storm with no wind in.
So 82 Hz is doing its job. It's getting rid of some of that low end, but it's not interfering too much with the vocal. Next up, we're going to take a look at the muddy frequency. And mud builds up a lot, again, in home studios, in untreated rooms when you're using a mic. And looking at this Neve plugin, we've got 470, 560 and 680 Hz as notched options. So anywhere around here is where we want to start fishing for that frequency, listening out with our ears for sort of unpleasant muddiness going on in the vocal, a bit of woofiness, a bit of muffliness that's helping, not helping the vocal to come through, be present and clear. So let's just take a listen.
Sitting on a fence to keep them on track. You must move on, let them keep looking back.
Just going to boost those frequencies.
Trains run off the rails, caught in a storm with no wind in their sails. Sitting on a fence.
So you can hear that really happening around 470. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to not bring in the high Q, which is going to bring in a narrower Q, because I'm going to do a little cut here. And when you're making cuts like this, you want to be less destructive with your frequency band, so you're not taking away other frequencies and taking away too much from your vocal. We really want to get in there at that frequency and just get rid of some of that unpleasantness. So let's just take a listen.
To keep them on track, you must move on, let them keep looking back. Runaway trains run off the
Go too far.
The rails, caught in a
It kind of really
storm
thins
with no
out.
wind in their sails. Sitting on a fence to keep them on track. You must move on, let them keep looking back. Runaway trains run off the rails, caught in a storm with no wind in their sails. Sitting on a fence to keep them on track. You must move on, let them keep looking back.
Next up, we're going to look at the higher mids. Now, it's really important to say as well, when you are mixing and working with your vocal, to work with the source rather than actually isolated like I have been a little bit on this tutorial, just to be clear and show you what's going on. Particularly if you're working, with a really busy, dense mix as well, you're going to want to hear how that vocal is and the changes you're making is working with the material rather than just on its own. If you're working in isolation, you can get the vocal sounding nice to your ears, then you bring in the rest of the mix and it just doesn't fit and you're going to have to start from scratch. So always good to work with the vocal when you're doing EQ moves within the mix. So next up, we're going to be looking at the upper mids, somewhere around, looking at the notches again on this knee, 4.7, 5.6 and 6.8K. And now we're going to be looking at bringing in some presence, some attack to that vocal. If we go too far around this area, then it's going to get harsh. So we want to teach our ears to actually understand that area and what we're going to be looking for. We really want to be using this area on the frequency spectrum to get our vocal to cut through the mix and give it some EQ attack and some presence. This area is particularly important, again, if you're working with a dense, busy mix, you know, something like a band mix with guitars that you really want your vocal to punch through. Again, watch out for overcooking it, because you're going to get harsh vocal. Let's take a listen.
Runaway trains run off the rails, caught in a storm with no wind in their sails, sitting on a fence to keep them on track. You must move on, let them keep looking back. Runaway trains run off the rails, caught in a storm with no wind in their sails, sitting on a fence to keep them on track. You must move on, let them keep looking back.
You're also looking, when you're mixing around this area, for it to sound right, for it to sit with the vocal. And of course, as I mentioned at the top of this video, every voice is different. So you want to be listening for it just to feel right, to feel that you've got that frequency that you're boosting that actually brings some quality out from the vocal. Let's take a listen to this little boost with and without the EQ in.
Runaway trains run off the rails, caught in a storm with no wind in their sails, sitting on a fence to keep them on track. You must move on, let them keep looking back.
And EQ back in.
Runaway trains run off the rails, caught in a...
Now finally, we're going to add some air to our vocal. So we're going to be looking around the upper area of the top end, 10K, 15K, to bring some pro sounding sparkling air and a bit of lift to our vocal. So I'm going to bring it in at 10K. Let's dial a little bit in.
A storm with no wind in their sails, sitting on a fence to keep them on track.
Now too much and things get really harsh to the ear, so let's bring it down a little bit.
You must move on, let them keep looking back. Runaway trains run off the rails, caught in a storm with no wind in their sails, sitting on a fence to keep them on track. You must move on, let them keep looking back.
Let's take a listen with our EQ out.
Runaway trains run off the rails, caught in a storm with no wind in their sails, sitting on a fence to keep them on track. You must move on, let them keep looking back.
Back out.
Runaway trains run off the rails,
back
caught in a storm with no wind in their sails.
So with those 4 simple EQ moves, we've managed to get rid of the low end rumble. We've managed to get rid of some of the mud which may have been generated on our mic from our home studio. We've given the vocal a bit more presence to help it attack and get through that mix, and we've given it a little bit of high end sparkle too. So that's 4 key moves for working with a channel strip on your vocal in your home studio. Hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please remember to like, subscribe. Most importantly, my friend, go have yourself a great day.